The heavens tore open above Sarpedon Prime, a wound in reality that bled crimson light across the ash plains, where the 117th Cadian Regiment made their final stand. Commissar Jerk Vaughn watched through magnolars as the phenomenon split wider, his weathered face illuminated by its unnatural glow. 3 days of relentless artillery had reduced the Astra Militarum defensive line to scattered craters and makeshift barricades. The regiment's strength whittled to barely 800 souls. "Movement in the anomaly, sir," voxed Lieutenant Karras, her voice crackling with static. "Something is coming through." Vaughn lowered his magnolars, drawing his bolt pistol in a practiced motion. 20 years of service to the God Emperor had taught him that anything emerging from such a tear could only herald death. "All batteries, target that breach. Fire on my mark." Basilisk artillery pieces adjusted their trajectory with mechanical precision. Across the line, guardsmen chambered rounds in their lasguns, hands steady despite the horror unfolding above. Faith in the Emperor would sustain them. Faith always had. The tear contracted suddenly, as if expelling something with tremendous force. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a shockwave that knocked men from their feet and toppled a nearby sentinel walker. When Vaughn regained his senses, he saw a single figure descending slowly toward the battlefield, wreathed in blue-white energy that illuminated the darkness like a small sun. "What throne-damned warp-craft is this?" he whispered. The figure touched down 100 meters from the Imperial line, the unusual aura fading to reveal a man of compact but powerful build. He wore unusual blue armor that left his arms exposed, with white gloves and boots unlike any Imperial pattern. His black hair rose upward in a flame-like crest, and his face bore the sharp, aristocratic features of one accustomed to command. The stranger surveyed the devastation around him with narrowed eyes. "Basilisks, fire!" Vaughn ordered. 3 Earthshaker rounds screamed across the sky, converging on the intruder with pinpoint accuracy. The explosion threw up a wall of dirt and shrapnel that obscured Vaughn's vision. For a moment, silence fell across the battlefield. Then the dust cleared. The stranger stood untouched, not a mark on his pristine armor, not a single step displaced from his original position. His eyes found Vaughn's across the battlefield, dark and calculating. "Is this the best this realm has to offer?" His voice carried effortlessly across the distance, filled with proud disdain. "I am Vegeta, Prince of all Cyans. Your pathetic weapons cannot harm me." Vaughn raised his bolt pistol. "In the name of the God Emperor, identify yourself, Xenos." "God Emperor?" Vegeta smirked, crossing his arms. "Another would-be deity. I have killed gods before." The air around him began to shimmer with heat. Tiny pebbles rose from the ground as if gravity itself was bending to his will. A blue glow encompassed his form once more, growing in intensity until it hurt to look directly at him. "All units, open fire!" Vaughn commanded, squeezing the trigger of his own weapon. 1,000 lasgun beams converged on Vegeta simultaneously, joined by heavy bolter fire from the remaining Chimera transports. The combined firepower would have reduced a space marine to bloody fragments, but the energy simply rippled across an invisible barrier surrounding the Cyan. "Pitiful," Vegeta said, uncrossing his arms. "Let me show you true power." He raised one gloved hand, palm outward. A sphere of brilliant energy coalesced before it, growing from the size of a fist to that of a Lehman Russ tank in seconds. The air crackled with ozone and static. "Take cover!" Vaughn screamed into the Vox. "Gallic gun!" A beam of purple energy erupted from his palm, wider than 3 men standing shoulder to shoulder. It carved through the Imperial line like a godly blade, vaporizing everything in its path. Guardsmen, tanks, artillery pieces, all reduced to nothing in an instant. The beam continued beyond the battlefield, striking a distant mountain and obliterating its peak in a spectacular explosion. Vaughn pulled himself from the rubble, ears ringing from the blast. Half the regiment was gone, simply erased from existence. The remaining guardsmen emerged from cover, faces ashen with shock. "The Emperor protects," Vaughn muttered reflexively, though doubt gnawed at him for the first time in decades. No force he had ever encountered possessed such raw destructive potential. Not the orcs, not even the traitor legions. Vegeta walked forward, each step leaving a small crater in the earth, as if his very presence was too much for this world to bear. "I seek worthy opponents," the Cyan announced. "This galaxy teems with energy signatures, some even rival my own." His eyes narrowed. "Direct me to these warriors, and I may spare what remains of your pathetic forces." Lieutenant Karras helped Vaughn to his feet, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. "Sir, we need to fall back. Nothing in our arsenal can touch him." Vaughn nodded grimly. "Sound the retreat. Get a Vox to command. Tell them—" He paused, watching Vegeta approach with the confident stride of an apex predator. "Tell them we face a threat beyond classification. Request immediate Astartes intervention." As the surviving guardsmen began their withdrawal, Vegeta suddenly tensed, looking skyward. "More of your reinforcements?" he asked, with a hint of eagerness in his voice.
Vaughn followed his gaze and felt his blood run cold. Green drop pods were screaming through the atmosphere, leaving trails of crude smoke in their wake. The distinct silhouette of orc rocks filled the sky, drawn to the planet by the promise of battle. "Not ours," Vaughn said grimly. "Something far worse." Vegeta smiled, a predatory expression that sent shivers down the commissar's spine. "Good. Perhaps they will provide a better challenge than your soldiers." The first rock crashed into the plains 3 kilometers away, sending tremors through the ground. Within minutes, the unmistakable sound of orc war cries filled the air, punctuated by the crude rattle of their guns. "Wah!" The collective roar of thousands of greenskins echoed across the battlefield. Vegeta's aura flared again, his power rising visibly. Let them come. All of them. Commissar Vaughn retreated with his surviving troops, watching as the Saiyan prince stood alone against the approaching green tide. Whatever this being was, Emperor help any who stood in his path, and Emperor protect humanity if he could not be stopped. The orcs swarmed across the ash plains in a green avalanche, thousands strong and growing by the minute as more rocks crashed into Sarpedon Prime's surface. Their crude vehicles kicked up clouds of dust, and their collective bellowing formed a wall of sound that preceded their advance. At their center rode Warboss Grimtor, a mountain of muscle and scrap metal atop a battle wagon bristling with improvised weapons. Vegeta watched their approach with arms crossed, unmoving as the horde drew closer. Their brutal simplicity reminded him of the lower-class Saiyans he had once commanded, though these creatures lacked even the basic discipline of his former subordinates. The first wave of orc boys charged ahead of the main force, eager for glory. 50 greenskins, armed with crude choppas and sluggas, bellowing war cries as they closed the distance. "You lot gonna get crump good!" the lead orc shouted, raising an axe nearly as large as himself. Vegeta's expression remained impassive. When the orc was 5 paces away, he simply extended one hand and released a controlled burst of ki energy. The blast tore through the entire front line of greenskins, reducing them to scattered fragments of meat and metal. The second wave hesitated for only a moment before charging with even greater fervor, drawn to the display of power. This time hundreds came at once, firing their weapons wildly. Crude bullets and energy blasts peppered the area around Vegeta, kicking up dirt but finding no purchase against his key reinforced defenses. He launched himself forward, moving so quickly that he became a blur to Orc perception. His fist connected with the first greenskin's chest, punching clean through armor, flesh, and bone before emerging from its back. Without pausing, he tore sideways, ripping the Orc in half. He spun in the same motion, leg extended in a roundhouse kick that decapitated 3 more greenskins with a single sweep. Blood sprayed across his white gloves and boots, the only evidence that he was expending any effort at all. "Is this all?" he called out, voice cutting through the din of battle. "Is there not one among you who can test my strength?" An Orc knob pushed to the front, standing a full head taller than his brethren. He carried a massive power claw that crackled with unstable energy. "I was going to rip your arms off, you little humie," the knob roared, charging forward with surprising speed for his bulk. Vegeta smiled thinly, waiting until the last possible moment before sidestepping the attack. The power claw swept through empty air as Vegeta grabbed the knob's extended arm. With a casual twist, he tore the limb free at the shoulder, green blood gushing from the wound. The knob howled in pain and rage, only to be silenced as Vegeta drove the severed limb through its owner's chest like a spear. "Disappointing," Vegeta said, tossing the corpse aside. "I had expected more from creatures bred for war." The Orc main force had arrived now, surrounding Vegeta in a sea of green. War Boss Grimtor pushed his way to the front, his massive form dwarfing even the largest knobs. Cybernetic enhancements protruded from his flesh, and a force field generator hummed on his back. His red eyes fixed on Vegeta with uncharacteristic calculation for an Orc. "You, Grimtor," growled a voice like grinding metal. "You fight good, kill many boys, but Grimtor, not just any Orc." The War Boss thumped his chest. "Grimtor killed 3 Space Marines with bare hands. Grimtor ate heart while still beating." Vegeta raised an eyebrow. "Should I be impressed?" The War Boss lowered with laughter. "You're strong, maybe strongest I ever seen." He pointed a massive metal-clad finger at Vegeta. "Join Wa, be my knob. We crump all humies together." "Join you?" Vegeta's voice dropped dangerously. "Prince Vegeta serves no one, least of all a primitive creature like you." Grimtor's expression darkened. "Then you die here." The War Boss signaled, and dozens of Orc gunners opened fire simultaneously. Looted heavy weapons, crude plasma cannons, and rocket launchers unleashed a barrage that would have flattened an Imperial bunker complex. Vegeta's aura flared bright blue as he rocketed upward, the bombardment cratering the ground where he had stood. From the air, he looked down at the gathered Orc forces, now numbering in the tens of thousands. For the first time, a genuine smile of pleasure crossed his face. At last, an opportunity to demonstrate my full power. He raised both hands above his head. Energy gathered between his palms, condensing into a sphere of blinding white light. Big Bang attack. The energy sphere shot downward, expanding as it traveled. When it struck the center of the Orc horde, it detonated with force enough to shake the entire continent. A dome of pure energy expanded outward, vaporizing everything that it touched. Orcs, vehicles, weapons, all were reduced to their component atoms in an instant. When the light faded, a crater 2 kilometers wide had replaced the heart of the Wa.
The edges were glassed by the heat of the explosion, steam rising from the vitrified soil. Thousands of Orcs had been erased in a single attack, yet the Wa continued from the periphery of the blast zone. Surviving Orcs watched with awe rather than fear. Their crude minds processed what they had witnessed, not as a defeat, but as a revelation. Their voices rose in a new chant.
one that spread through the surviving greenkins with the speed of wildfire.
"War boss! War boss! Strongest war boss!"
Vegeta descended to the edge of the crater, where Grim Tor had somehow survived, his force field generator a melted ruin on his back, half his body charred beyond recognition. The wounded war boss crawled toward Vegeta, not in attack, but in supplication.
"You strongest,"
Grim Tor wheezed through burned lungs.
"You true war boss. All orcs follow you now."
The surviving greenkins were approaching cautiously, weapons lowered, heads bowed in the closest thing to reverence an orc could manage. Tens of thousands of them acknowledging Vegeta as their leader. Vegeta looked at the kneeling orcs with contempt. "I have no interest in leading a rabble of weaklings."
"Not weaklings," Grim Tor insisted, gesturing to the horde with his remaining arm. "Orcs get stronger fighting stronger enemies. You make orcs stronger. Make biggest wog ever."
Something in the war boss's words caught Vegeta's attention. The concept was familiar, reminiscent of the Saiyan biology that allowed him to grow stronger after each battle. Perhaps these creatures were more interesting than he had initially thought. Before he could respond, the distant thunder of drop pods broke the moment. Imperial reinforcements were arriving, the silhouettes of their transport craft distinct from the crude orc vessels. "Space Marines," Grim Tor said, following Vegeta's gaze.
"Strongest humies. Good fight."
Vegeta considered the situation. Leading an army had never been his goal, but these orcs could prove useful in locating worthy opponents in this strange new universe. And if these Space Marines were truly the mightiest warriors this galaxy had to offer, he would need to face them eventually. "Very well," Vegeta said, turning back to Grim Tor. "I will lead your wog for now, but understand this, I am not one of you. I am a Saiyan prince, and you will address me as such." Grim Tor nodded eagerly, then turned to the assembled orcs.
"Listen up, you gits. This is Prince Vegeta, strongest warrior, new war boss. We follow him to biggest fights, biggest wog ever."
The greenkins erupted in cheers, raising their weapons in salute to their new leader.
"Wog Vegeta! Wog Vegeta!"
Vegeta watched the display with mingled disgust and satisfaction. These creatures were beneath him, but their reverence was not undeserved, and if they could lead him to worthy opponents, perhaps even a way back to his own universe, he would tolerate their presence. He turned toward the approaching Imperial forces, a predatory smile spreading across his face. This strange new galaxy had much to offer a warrior prince in search of battle. And battle was the one constant across all universes Vegeta understood perfectly. Brother Captain Tiberius, of the Ultramarines' 2nd Company, stood in the command deck of the strike cruiser Oath of Moment, watching the tactical hololith with growing concern. The display showed the surface of Sarpedon Prime, where a massive energy signature had been detected hours earlier. Now the scan revealed a crater where the 117th Cadian Regiment had made their stand, and an enormous concentration of orc forces gathering to the north. "The situation is unprecedented, my lord," reported Tech Marine Dreos, his mechadendrites dancing over the controls of the augury array. "The energy discharge we detected exceeds anything in our records. It does not match known patterns of warp manifestation, Necron technology, or Eldari weaponry." "What of the Cadians?" Tiberius asked. "Approximately 30% survived, retreating to the capital hive. Their commissar reports encountering a humanoid Xenos of extreme power. Shortly afterwards, the orcs arrived. According to the latest OPEX readings, the orc horde now appears to be organizing around the energy signature." Chaplain Octavius stepped forward, his skull helm turning toward the display. "The timing cannot be coincidence. The appearance of this Xenos followed immediately by an orc invasion. The Emperor's hand guides us to this threat before it can spread." Tiberius nodded gravely. "Ready the drop pods?
First and third tactical squads will establish a perimeter. Second squad and the Devastators will provide fire support. Assault squad will remain in reserve until we assess the threat. "And you, brother captain?" Octavius asked. Tiberius checked the power level on his plasma pistol. "I will lead the vanguard personally. Whatever this Xenos is, it must be confronted with the Emperor's fury." Within minutes, the Ultramarine strike force was loaded into drop pods and launched toward the surface of Sarpedon. Tiberius felt the familiar sensation of acceleration as his pod tore through Sarpedon's atmosphere, the metal shell heating to near melting around him. 5 veteran battle brothers stood with him, each one a warrior with centuries of combat experience. "Brotherhood of the Blade," Tiberius intoned. "Loyalty until death," his brothers responded in unison. The drop pod crashed into the ash plains 15 kilometers from the Orc position, retro thrusters firing at the last second to prevent catastrophic impact. The doors blew outward and the Ultramarines deployed in perfect formation, bolters at the ready. Across the landing zone, other pods discarded their lethal cargo. 50 Space Marines, the finest warriors of the Imperium, arranged themselves in battle formation. The blue of their armor stood in sharp contrast to the gray wasteland around them. "Forward, brothers," Tiberius commanded, "for Ultramar and the Emperor."
The Space Marines advanced in disciplined units, their heavy ceramite boots leaving distinct impressions in the ash. Devastator squads took positions on elevated terrain, heavy weapons tracking for targets. Assault Marines kept pace just behind the tactical squads, jump packs primed for rapid engagement. As they crested a ridge, they saw the Orc encampment spread across the plains below. Thousands of greenskins were gathered, but instead of the typical chaotic sprawl of an Orc warband, they appeared organized in concentric rings around a central point. Crude towers had been hastily erected, each flying a new banner, a stylized symbol that resembled neither Orc glyphs nor any known Xenos iconography. RepSpec's readings confirm the energy signature is at the center of the formation. It appears dormant for now, but still registering at dangerous levels. "The Orcs have not noticed our arrival," observed Sergeant Atreus of the first squad. "Unusual for greenskins." "Almost as if in worship," Octavius said. Tiberius raised his hand, signaling the force to halt. "Brother Dross, Vox Intercept, let us hear what passes among the greenskins." The Tech Marine adjusted his equipment, filtering through the cacophony of Orc communications until coherent phrases emerged through the squad's Vox units. "Prince Vegeta, strongest ever, going to show us real fighting, crush all enemies." "Vegeta," Tiberius repeated, the name the Commissar reported. "It appears the Xenos has somehow taken control of the Orc horde." "Impossible," Sergeant Atreus protested. "Orcs follow only strength. No Xenos has ever united them so completely." "Yet the evidence is before us," Chaplain Octavius said grimly. "A Xenos capable of both devastating firepower and subverting an entire warband. This threat must be eliminated with extreme prejudice." Tiberius nodded. "Devastator Squad, target the center of the formation. Brother Dross, signal the strike cruiser for orbital bombardment on these coordinates. We will draw out this Prince Vegeta and end his threat before it can spread beyond this world." "Bombardment lock acquired," Dross confirmed after a moment. "Firing solution in 30 seconds. Tiberius raised his plasma pistol. "All units prepare to engage. The Emperor protects." High above, the Oath of Moment aligned its port lance batteries. Energy built within the massive weapons, focusing into coherent beams that streaked toward the planet's surface like the Emperor's own spear. Simultaneously, the Devastator Squad opened fire, heavy bolters and missile launchers unleashing destruction upon the Orc gathering. The first lance strike hit with apocalyptic force, vaporizing hundreds of greenskins instantly. Secondary explosions rippled through their crude vehicles and ammunition stores. The Devastator's fire added to the carnage, each missile finding clusters of Orcs with unerring accuracy. For a moment,
Tiberius allowed himself to believe the threat might be neutralized in a single overwhelming strike. Then the dust cleared. A figure hovered above the impact zone, surrounded by a sphere of blue energy that had somehow withstood the full fury of an orbital bombardment. The Xenos called Vegeta looked directly toward the ultramarine position, despite the considerable distance and the concealment the ridge provided. "Impossible," Sergeant Atreus whispered. "Drows, analysis," Tiberius demanded. The Tech Marine's instruments whirred as he conducted rapid scans. The energy field surrounding the target appears similar to a void shield, but generated without any detectable technology. It absorbed or deflected the entire lance strike. Below Vegeta, the surviving orcs were reorganizing with surprising speed, forming battle lines facing the ultramarine position. The Xenos gestured, and the greenskin horde began advancing toward the ridge. "All units, engage," Tiberius commanded. "Focus fire on the Xenos leader." The ultramarines opened fire as one, bolters and heavy weapons concentrating on the hovering figure. Explosions bloomed around Vegeta as bolt shells detonated against his energy field, but he continued forward, apparently unharmed. "Your weapons are nothing to me," Vegeta's voice carried across the battlefield with unnatural clarity. "But you, warriors, interest me. You move with discipline, purpose." He descended to the ground, the blue aura fading. "Perhaps you will provide a worthier challenge than these green creatures." "Blasphemy against the Emperor will not be tolerated, Xenos. Your existence is an affront to humanity. Prepare to meet your end." Vegeta laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. "Bold words. Let us see if your strength matches them." The Scion Prince launched himself forward with explosive speed, covering the distance to the ultramarine line in seconds. His first strike caught Sergeant Atreus in the chest, the force of the blow sending the veteran Space Marine flying backward, despite his 2-ton armor. Tiberius reacted instantly, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to track Vegeta's movement. He fired his plasma pistol point blank, the superheated matter streaking toward the Xenos' head. Vegeta tilted his head slightly, allowing the plasma bolt to pass harmlessly over his shoulder. "Better," he acknowledged, "but still too slow." His counterattack was a blur of motion, fists and feet striking with precision that belied their tremendous power. 2 ultramarines fell in rapid succession, their armor cracked and internal organs pulverized despite the ceramite protection. The remaining Space Marines formed a defensive circle, bolters firing continuously.
Vegeta darted between the explosive shells, moving with preternatural grace. When he struck, it was with calculated force, targeting weak points in the Astartes' armor that should have been invisible to an enemy without augur assistance. Tiberius ordered fallback and regroup, recognizing the futility of their current approach. Devastator Squad suppressing fire, Assault Squad engage from multiple vectors. The Devastators unleashed a barrage that would have flattened a hab block, forcing Vegeta to pause his attack. Taking advantage of the momentary respite, the Assault Marines activated their jump packs, launching into the air in a coordinated pattern designed to surround the target. 5 Assault Marines descended upon Vegeta simultaneously, chainswords revving with destructive potential. The Saiyan smiled, as if pleased by the new challenge. He caught the first chainsword bare-handed, the adamantine teeth shattering against his palm. With his free hand, he drove a punch through the Space Marine's breastplate, penetrating the black carapace and the warrior's primary heart in a single strike. The remaining Assault Marines attacked with coordinated precision, centuries of training evident in their movements. For the first time, Vegeta was forced to defend from multiple angles, blocking and parrying with rapid movements that left afterimages in the air. "Better," he acknowledged, catching a power fist mid-swing and crushing the mechanism with a squeeze of his hand. "Better than any warriors I have faced in this realm, but still nowhere near my level." His aura flared again, expanding outward in a kinetic wave that threw the Assault Marines back.
Before they could recover, Vegeta was among them, delivering punishing blows that found gaps in their armor with unerring accuracy. Tiberius watched 3 more of his brothers fall and made a tactical decision. All units, full withdrawal. Dreos, signal the oath for immediate extraction. Running away, Vegeta called out, holding an assault marine by the throat. I expected more from the elite warriors of this galaxy. He crushed the Space Marine's neck with a casual twist, dropping the body to the ground. We do not fear death, Xenos, Tiberius replied, his voice steady despite the losses his force had sustained. But neither do we waste lives needlessly. Your power is considerable, but the Imperium's resources are limitless. We will return in greater numbers, and you will be exterminated. Vegeta crossed his arms. I look forward to it. Bring your strongest fighters next time. These were merely a warm-up. Behind the Saiyan, the Orc horde had caught up. Thousands of greenskins forming a wall of muscle and crude metal. They kept a respectful distance from Vegeta, their usual bloodlust tempered by what appeared to be awe. See how even the savage greenskins recognize my superiority. They know true power when they see it. Perhaps humanity in this galaxy lacks such wisdom. The Emperor guides humanity, Chaplain Octavius intoned, and he will see your kind purged from his domain. Another god to disappoint, Vegeta replied dismissively. I have heard such claims before. Bring your Emperor to face me if he dares. The blasphemy hung in the air as Thunderhawk gunships roared overhead, providing covering fire while the surviving Ultramarines withdrew. Tiberius was the last to board, his gaze locked with Vegeta's across the battlefield. This is not over, the brother captain vowed. Of course not, Vegeta replied with a predatory smile. It has barely begun. As the gunships rose into the atmosphere, Tiberius watched the Xenos return to the Orc horde, which parted before him like a green sea. The implications were dire. A single Xenos with power beyond anything in Imperial records, now commanding a WOG of unprecedented size. Sarpedon Prime was lost, but the Imperium would respond with the full measure of its wrath. It had to. 3 solar months after the arrival of Prince Vegeta on Sarpedon Prime, an Imperial War Council convened on board the battleship Divine Retribution in high anchor above Carduni, the closest forge world to the spreading conflict. The ship's strategium was filled with the Imperium's military elite, Lord General Maximilian Crew of the Astra Militarum, Lord Admiral Hassan of Battlefleet Tempestus, and Grand Master Vulov of the Grey Knights, and chapter masters from 3 Space Marine chapters, the Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, and Raven Guard. At the center of the hololith display, the spreading zone of Xenos conquest glowed an angry red, encompassing 17 systems and growing daily. The situation is unprecedented, Lord General Crew stated, his augmentic eye whirring as he studied the display. In 91 days, this Xenos has conquered more territory than Abaddon managed in his first Black Crusade. The WOG under his command has swelled to include an estimated 70 million greenskins, all displaying uncharacteristic discipline and coordination. Not just orcs, corrected Inquisitor Cade, a severe woman representing the Ordo Xenos. Our latest intelligence suggests that several minor Xeno species have pledged allegiance to this Prince Vegeta, including a Kroot kindred and at least 2 Kroot migration fleets. Unprecedented is an understatement. Indeed, Chapter Master Titus of the Ultramarines said grimly, we are facing a Xenos with the raw power of a greater demon, the strategic acumen of a Primarch, and the unifying influence of a beast-level orc warboss. The combination is apocalyptic. The hololith shifted to display footage captured by servoskulls during various engagements. Images of Vegeta in battle played out, tearing through Astarte squads with bare hands, deflecting laser cannon fire with casual swipes, and unleashing energy attacks that reduced Titan-class war machines to molten scrap.
Conventional military response has proven ineffective, Crew admitted. We have thrown 3 Tempestus Scion regiments, 8 Astartes companies, and a Titan maniple at this threat, all destroyed or routed. The Xenos' power appears to be internally generated, Magos Biologicus Fearin intoned, his mechanical voice clicking between syllables. Tissue samples recovered from battlefield contact suggest a unique cellular structure capable of channeling and amplifying bioelectrical energy to extraordinary levels. It is unlike anything in the Imperium's taxonomic archives. That is because he is not of this galaxy, Grandmaster Volov stated, his psitic hood humming with suppressed energy. The Grey Knights monitored the initial breach. It was not warp-based, but something else entirely, a tear between realities. This being came from beyond our universe. A murmur passed through the assembled leaders. Extra-dimensional incursion was rare enough to be the stuff of legend, even among those privy to the Imperium's darkest secrets. Can he be killed? Chapter Master Sias of the Imperial Fists asked bluntly. Theoretically, yes, Magos Fearin replied. Despite his extraordinary resilience, the Xenos' physiology is fundamentally biological. His energy reserves, while vast, are finite. Extended engagement has shown brief periods of reduced output, suggesting a need to recover or replenish. Then we must force such exhaustion, Lord Admiral Hassan declared. A sustained orbital bombardment from multiple battleships, coupled with ground forces to keep him engaged. We tried that at Heraxos Prime, Crew countered. 15 hours of continuous bombardment. The Xenos emerged unharmed and destroyed 3 of our capital ships in retaliation. There is one option we have not yet employed, Inquisitor Cade said, her voice cutting through the debate. Exterminatus. The strategium fell silent. Exterminatus was the Imperium's final sanction, reserved for threats that could not be contained by any other means. You propose destroying 17 inhabited Imperial worlds, Titus asked, his voice tight with anger. Billions of loyal citizens. I propose preventing the loss of hundreds more worlds, Cade replied coolly. This Xenos gains strength with every victory. His war grows exponentially. If we do not act decisively now, we risk losing the entire segmentum. The Inquisitor's assessment, while harsh, is tactically sound, Volov acknowledged. However, conventional exterminatus weaponry may prove insufficient. The Xenos has survived direct hits from Desolator-class torpedoes and lance batteries. Even virus bombing may not eliminate a being of his resilience. Then what do you propose, Grandmaster? Lord General Crew asked. Volov's silver eyes gleamed in the dim light of the strategium. A more specialized approach. The Grey Knights maintain several artifacts of extraordinary destructive potential, designed to combat the most powerful warp entities. While this Xenos is not demonic in nature, the principles may apply. And what would be required to deploy such weapons? Admiral Hassan inquired. A strike force of my brethren to deliver the weapon directly, and a sufficient diversion to occupy the Xenos' attention while we prepare the ritual of activation. Chapter Master Titus nodded slowly.
The Ultramarines will provide that diversion. We owe a debt of honor after our defeat at Sarpedon Prime. As will the Imperial Fists, Sias added. We will hold the line as long as necessary. The Raven Guard shall deploy behind enemy lines, offered Chapter Master Corvin. We will disrupt the Orc forces and create additional pressure points to divide the Xenos' attention. Inquisitor Cade looked to Grandmaster Vulav. How soon can your forces be ready? My battle brothers already prepare aboard our strike cruiser. The artifact requires calibration for this specific target. 3 days, no more. Then we have our strategy, Lord General Crew concluded. The combined Astartes forces will engage the Xenos directly. The Grey Knights will deliver their weapon under cover of battle. The Imperial Navy will provide orbital support and evacuation once the artifact is deployed. The assembled leaders nodded in grim agreement. There is one more matter, Inquisitor Cade said. Intelligence reports indicate the Xenos has been searching for something. He interrogates prisoners about powerful warriors and entities in our galaxy. He seems particularly interested in beings of exceptional power. The Emperor, Vulav said quietly, or perhaps the Primarchs. If he seeks godlike power to challenge, we must ensure he never leaves the target system. The consequences would be unthinkable. All the more reason to end this threat immediately, Cade replied. For the Emperor. For the Emperor, the Council responded in unison. As the leaders dispersed to prepare their forces, Grandmaster Vulav remained at the hololith, studying the image of Vegeta frozen in mid-battle. The Saiyan prince's face showed not rage or bloodlust, but a calculating intelligence behind his displays of overwhelming force. Whatever this being was, wherever he had come from, he was unlike any Xenos the Imperium had ever faced before, and that made him infinitely dangerous. Prince Vegeta stood atop a mountain of skulls, the grisly trophy pile assembled by his Orc followers from their conquests across the Hakari system. The green-skinned warriors constantly added to the mound, each hoping to curry favor with their powerful leader. Vegeta found their ritual primitive, but not without a certain appeal. The Saiyans had once done similar things in their own conquests across the stars. 3 months in this strange galaxy had provided ample combat to slake his warrior's thirst, yet something remained unsatisfactory. The forces he had faced, while occasionally challenging in their numbers or technology, lacked the individual power to truly test him. Even the enhanced humans in their impressive armor had fallen too easily.
Hume ships are moving again. Big fleet this time. Lots of dark blue ones and yellow ones together. Vegeta nodded absently. They are persistent. I will give them that. Want me to send a fleet to crump 'em? Grimto asked eagerly. No, Vegeta replied after a moment. Let them come. Their coordinated attacks are becoming more interesting. Perhaps they have finally found warriors worthy of my attention. He turned to look at the Orc. Despite his initial disdain for these creatures, Vegeta had developed a grudging respect for their resilience and growth potential. Like Saiyans, they became stronger through combat, though in a cruder, less efficient manner. Tell me again about these Grey Knights the prisoners mentioned, Vegeta commanded. Grimto scratched his metal-plated head. Secret Hume warriors, all shiny silver. Fight the warp stuff. Very strong, they say. Never seen one myself. They kill anyone who sees them. Keep themselves secret. Yet another elite fighting force, Vegeta mused. But are they truly different from the others, or just another disappointment? The Saiyan prince had begun to wonder if this universe offered any beings that could match him. The interrogation of imperial prisoners had yielded tales of godlike entities, the emperor of mankind, ancient star gods called Citan, warp beings known as chaos gods, and enigmatic entities called the Old Ones. But none had manifested to challenge him directly. "Has there been any progress in locating the tear in reality?" Vegeta asked, changing the subject. Grimto shook his head. "The weird boys keep looking. Say they feel something sometimes, but it moves, never in same place twice." Vegeta frowned. While he had embraced the constant warfare this galaxy offered, he had not abandoned his search for a way back to his own universe. The dimensional tear that had brought him here had sealed immediately after his arrival, but traces of its energy signature remained, flickering across the sector like a phantom. "Double their efforts," Vegeta ordered. "I want that energy signature tracked and analyzed." Before Grimto could respond, a smaller orc rushed up the Skull Mountain, nearly tumbling several times in his haste. "War Boss Vegeta!" the messenger panted. "Humi ships, dropping things, hundreds of them. Big metal Humis coming down all over." Vegeta's eyes narrowed. So, they launched their grand assault at last. He rose into the air, his ki aura flaring around him as he ascended above the orc encampment. From this height, he could see the Imperial drop pods streaking through the atmosphere like falling stars, impacting across a 30-kilometer front around the orc-held territory. Already, the distinctive blue of ultramarines and yellow of Imperial fists were visible as the Space Marines deployed in attack formation. Vegeta smiled. This would be the largest force he had faced yet. Perhaps among them would be a warrior worthy of his full power. "Grimto," he called down to his lieutenant, "organize the defenses. I want to see how these Space Marines fight when properly challenged." "Yes, my prince," the cybernetic orc roared, already bellowing orders to the gathered warbands. Vegeta remained hovering, watching the Imperial forces advance with disciplined precision. This time, they had come prepared. Massive night walkers strode alongside the Space Marine formations, their weapon systems charging with destructive potential. Behind them, the towering forms of Titan war machines moved with ponderous grace. Warlord and Reaver classes, armed with weaponry that could level mountains. "Finally," Vegeta said to himself, "a battle worth my attention." He descended rapidly, landing at the forefront of his orc army. The greenskins had arranged themselves in a crude approximation of Imperial tactics, forming defensive lines with their heavier units supporting from the rear. Under Vegeta's leadership, the natural orc aggression had been tempered with strategic discipline, making them far more effective than their typically chaotic warfare. The Space Marine advance halted 1 kilometer from the orc line. For a moment, silence fell across the battlefield. Then a single Ultramarine stepped forward, his armor adorned with the heraldry of high rank. "Prince Vegeta," the Space Marine's amplified voice carried clearly across the distance. "I am Chapter Master Titus of the Ultramarines. In the name of the God Emperor of mankind, I demand your immediate surrender and submission to Imperial justice." Vegeta laughed, the sound echoing across the battlefield. "You demand? After I have defeated every force you have sent against me, your arrogance exceeds even my own. Chapter Master, this is your final warning. Surrender now or face the full wrath of the Imperium." Vegeta crossed his arms. "I have yet to see anything in this galaxy that could be called wrath. Show me this power you claim to possess. Prove your worth as warriors, or perish like all the others." Titus turned and raised his power sword. "For the Emperor! For the Emperor!" The battle cry was echoed by thousands of Space Marines as they charged forward, bolters blazing. Simultaneously, the Night Walkers opened fire with thermal and battle cannons, while the Titans unleashed the apocalyptic fury of their volcano cannons and plasma annihilators. The combined firepower would have reduced a small continent to ash. "Pathetic," Vegeta declared. "Is this truly your best effort?"
He thrust both hands forward, sending a wave of energy racing toward the Imperial line. It tore through the front ranks of Space Marines, vaporizing dozens despite their armor, and sending others flying like rag dolls. Wad, the Orc horde, inspired by their leader's display of power. They surged forward, a green tide of muscle and crude weaponry crashing against the Imperial forces. The battle devolved into chaotic close combat, Space Marines and Orcs locked in brutal melee across the killing field. Vegeta moved through the carnage like a force of nature, each strike precise and devastatingly effective. A punch that caved in a Terminator's breastplate, a kick that severed a Nightwalker's leg at the joint, a focused energy beam that bored through a Titan's void shields and reactor core, causing it to detonate in the blinding thermonuclear explosion. Yet something felt wrong. The Imperial attack, while impressive in scale, lacked the strategic finesse Vegeta had come to expect from these warriors. They were fighting as if to hold his attention rather than to achieve victory. Realization dawned as Vegeta sensed a new energy signature materializing behind his lines, a teleport assault designed to strike while he was occupied with the main force. "A diversion," Vegeta muttered, impressed despite himself. "Clever." He spun in mid-air, rocketing back toward his command position with a burst of speed that left a sonic boom in his wake. Below he saw them, 20 warriors in silver armor arranged in a perfect circle around an object that pulsed with strange, reality-distorting energy. The Grey Knights. And they had brought a weapon. Vegeta descended like a meteor, the force of his landing cratering the ground and sending shockwaves through the earth. The Grey Knights remained in formation, their discipline absolute, even in the face of his dramatic arrival. "So, you are the secret warriors I have heard whispers of. You do not hide your power like the others. I can sense it radiating from you." The Grey Knight in the center of the formation stepped forward, his armor more elaborate than his brother's. The helm revealed nothing of the face behind it, but the voice that emerged carried authority beyond mortal men. "I am Grand Master Vulov of the Grey Knights. Your rampage ends here, Xenos." Vegeta smirked. "Many have made that claim. All have failed to back it with adequate strength. We are not like the others you have faced. We were created for a singular purpose, to combat the greatest threats to humanity. Today, that threat is you." The Grand Master raised his nemesis Force Halberd, the weapon humming with psychic energy. As one, the Grey Knights began to chant in ancient tongues, their voices resonating with power that made the air itself vibrate. The device at the center of their formation pulsed in response, its energy signature growing exponentially with each passing second. Vegeta recognized the threat immediately. Whatever this weapon was, it channeled power on a scale approaching his own. Impressive, Vegeta acknowledged, but futile. He launched himself at Vulov, only to hit an invisible barrier of pure psychic force. The Great Knight's combined powers had created a shield that even his strength could not immediately penetrate. "The Terminus Decree has been invoked. The Anathema Engine is awakening. Your extra-dimensional essence will be bound and severed from this reality." Vegeta's eyes widened slightly, not in fear, but in genuine surprise. These warriors had correctly identified my dimensional displacement and designed a countermeasure specifically for me.
It was the first truly intelligent tactical response I had encountered in this galaxy. "You believe you can banish me with this device?" Vegeta pressed his hands against the psychic barrier, feeling it bend under his strength. The barrier cracked beneath his palms, fracture lines spreading across its invisible surface. The Grey Knights intensified their chant, pouring more psychic energy into both shield and device. The anathema engine was now fully active, its crystalline structure pulsing with blinding light. Tendrils of energy reached toward Vegeta, attempting to ensnare his ki aura. For the first time since his arrival in this universe, Vegeta felt his power being contested on a fundamental level. The device was not merely attacking him physically, but attempting to unravel the very fabric of his existence, to identify the dimensional frequency that defined his existence and alter it. "Enough games," Vegeta growled, his aura flaring brighter. "It is time you witnessed the true power of a Saiyan." He clenched his fists at his sides, muscles tensing as he drew upon his deepest reserves. The ground began to tremble beneath him, rocks rising into the air as gravity itself distorted around his form. "Final flash!" Twin beams of golden energy erupted from Vegeta's outstretched hands, merging into a single devastating attack that struck the psychic barrier with cataclysmic force. The shield shattered like glass, the backlash sending several Grey Knights to their knees. The energy continued unabated, aimed directly at the anathema engine. Grandmaster Vulov threw himself into the path of the attack, force halberd raised in a desperate attempt to deflect the attack. The Nemesis weapon, forged with techniques lost to time and imbued with the Emperor's own psychic signature, managed to split the energy beam for a crucial moment. "Now, brothers," commanded Vulov through gritted teeth, "complete the ritual while I hold him." The remaining Grey Knights redoubled their efforts, channeling psychic energy into the anathema engine. Even as Vegeta's attack threatened to destroy it, the device began to emit a high-pitched whine, its structure buckling under the conflicting forces tearing at it.
Vegeta pushed more power into his attack, determined to overcome this unexpected resistance. The Grandmaster's strength was fading, his armor blackening from the intense heat, but still he held his ground. "Your courage is commendable," Vegeta called out, genuine respect in his voice. "Few have withstood this attack for even a second." "We are the Emperor's chosen," Vulov replied, his voice strained but unwavering. "His will is our shield, his purpose our strength." The anathema engine reached critical capacity, its crystalline structure now a blinding nexus of energy that distorted the very air around it. A pulse of pure white light erupted outward, momentarily negating Vegeta's attack as it expanded in a perfect sphere. The Saiyan prince felt the wave wash over him, attempting to latch on to his ki signature and rewrite it at a quantum level. For a moment, his vision blurred as reality itself seemed to bend around him. He glimpsed other dimensions, parallel universes where his life had taken different paths, including fragmented images of his home reality. With a roar of defiance, Vegeta flared his aura to its maximum, creating a counter-frequency that disrupted the anathema engine's effect. The dimensional energy stabilized, returning him fully to the present reality. The backlash was catastrophic. The anathema engine imploded, collapsing into a singularity that pulled everything within a 100-meter radius toward it before detonating with force enough to level mountains. The Grey Knights were consumed in the explosion, their silver armor offering no protection against the dimensional energies they had sought to control. When the light faded, A crater half a kilometer wide had replaced the command position. At its center stood Vegeta, his armor scorched but intact, his expression of grim satisfaction. "At last," he said quietly, "worthy opponents." He looked across the battlefield where the Imperial forces were beginning to falter against the Orc onslaught. With their secret weapon destroyed and the Grey Knights eliminated, their strategy had collapsed. Now they fought only to cover their retreat. Vegeta rose into the air, preparing to rejoin the battle and complete his victory. Then he felt it. A familiar energy signature flickering at the edge of his perception like a distant beacon. The dimensional tear was active again. Abandoning the battle below, Vegeta shot upward, accelerating to supersonic speed as he traced the energy to its source. It led him high into the atmosphere, where reality itself seemed to thin, the boundaries between dimensions more permeable. There, hanging in the void between planet and space, was a shimmering distortion in the fabric of reality. Unlike the violent tear that had brought him to this galaxy, this anomaly was stable, pulsating with energy that resonated with his own key signature. As Vegeta approached, the tear responded to his presence, expanding to reveal glimpses of another reality beyond. He recognized it immediately, his home universe. The dimensional frequency of the tear matched his own perfectly, creating a pathway specifically attuned to his quantum signature. The Grey Knight's weapon had failed in its primary purpose, but its detonation had created a ripple effect through the dimensional barriers, temporarily weakening them enough for this portal to form. It was an unintended consequence, a cosmic irony that their attempt to banish him had instead created his path home. Vegeta hovered before the portal, feeling its pull on his very atoms. He could step through now, return to his own reality, to his family, his rivals, and the life he had known. Yet he hesitated. Below him stretched a galaxy of endless war, of constant challenges and battles yet to be fought. He had barely scratched the surface of the worthy opponents this galaxy might offer. The tales of godlike beings still intrigued him, the Emperor, the Chaos Gods, the star-consuming kin. Would he ever find such challenges in his home reality again? The dimensional tear pulsed, beginning to contract. Its stability was fleeting. Soon it would close, perhaps never to open again. The choice before Vegeta was stark: return home or remain in this galaxy of eternal warfare. In the end, it was no choice at all. With a final glance at the portal and the universe beyond, Vegeta turned away. The tear collapsed behind him, sealing the path between realities once more.